All right, cool. So yeah, the recording started, and for the most part, this is the second code lab, I believe, for pathway 1, which is basic layouts in Compose. Yeah, in the previous code lab, Vincent, if you're not familiar, basically what we covered was rows, columns, basics of theming, some animation here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty straightforward. I think in this one they wanted to do more of a real life look and feel for a sample app. So we're gonna go ahead and follow along. I don't think we'll finish this session, maybe not, but for the most part, we'll follow along here. And I don't like to really read it word for word, so if you spot anything that I might have missed, please let me know. But I will be talking through, as I sort of read through it, and then as I do things, at least as I understand it. So, again, if you catch anything, any mistakes or whatever it is, feel free to unmute. And yeah, if you have any questions as well, I usually stop along just to make sure that we're all on the right track. But if you have any questions, that's also a good point to call out. All right. So yeah, for the most part, it seems like, and then like I mentioned, we talked about surfaces, rows, columns, etc. So this is what we should have known from the previous code lab. We talked about state as well, like retaining state for the UI and stuff like that. And just to get an idea, Vincent, are you familiar with Compose at any level, or you're kind of just starting out?
I'm just starting out.
Gotcha. Are you familiar with the view system in Android, or just brand new to Android all throughout?
Yes, brand new. Right.
All right, cool. So perfect time to join, mainly because I think CodePath, sorry. Android right now is sort of in that cusp of Jetpack Compose. I mean, it's a standard, definitely, and there's a lot of companies that have adopted it, but for the most part now it's when it's becoming more, I guess, mainstream within developers all throughout. So for the most part, it's a good time that you joined. Android is a little bit, I would say, it's like hard mode for mobile development, mainly because historically Android has been a platform that's really focused on resource management all throughout, and that's stuff that and in addition to a lot of other things and gotchas, there's a lot of things that the developer has to keep in mind, essentially. With the view system, it was a little bit it was a little more difficult, I would say, than with what I've seen so far from Jetpack, at least from a beginning perspective, right? So I think you'll have a good time. Do you have any experience with web development or anything like that? Because it might translate if you do.
Yes, I did mostly backend, not front end, but yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, this is gonna touch on, I guess, I don't know that it will actually. It's mainly UI, but for the most part, if you've done React or anything like that, it's fairly similar from what I've heard, and the way that things are sort of structured. So yeah, maybe you'll see some similarities. Yeah.
All right.
All right, awesome. So yeah, in this code lab, it seems like we're gonna be learning about more modifiers. So modifiers being if we wanted to add, padding, margin, whatever it is, to our different composables, etc. Maybe here they're going to talk a little bit more in depth into that area. We haven't really dived into that too much. I think in the last one, all we touched was padding for the most part. But I know that there's a lot more modifiers in that. There's also going to be some talk about column, so a vertical sort of list, lazy row, etc. Alignments, arrangements. Yeah, so it's going to dive a little bit deeper into the UI stuff. And then also just building flexible composables. Not sure what they mean by that, but I'm assuming it's something more responsive maybe. So we'll take a look at that soon. And Kotlin is a lot similar to Java in a lot of ways, but it's less verbose. So you'll see some similarities here and there, but for the most part, you should be pretty it should be pretty easy to understand. So let's go ahead and dive into this real quick. This is what we're going to be building essentially at the end of this code lab. At least that's what they want us to build. Maybe I'll make it a lot, less pretty than this, but we'll see. All right. So we're going to be diving into this code lab using starter code. So I'm just going to go ahead and clone this on my end. Oops. Clone this on my end. Pull this on this side just in case. I don't even know where I have my projects. Do I have it under that? No, Android. But let me see what my directory looks like. I have an Android project. Yeah, Android Studio projects. Okay. All right. And I think I have one called no others, other people. I'll drop it in that one. And Vincent, if you want to follow along, feel free to stop me at any point if you don't understand. Like once we dive into Android Studio, because basically I'm going to open up the project, from this repo. And I'm assuming you have it downloaded, but I'm not sure. Do you, Android Studio?
Not yet. I'm just watching for now.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah. If you want to take a step back, just spectate for now. That's all cool. Alrighty. So I'm assuming the starter code will have, it's a basic layout for the beginning of this code lab. But for the most part, once we, let me see. Yeah, contains all that. So once we get that sort of opened up, I hope it doesn't look like this at the beginning. That would defeat the purpose. But let's take a look. All right. Just gonna look into the guide a little bit closer in the meantime. Right, yeah. So they're basically talking about like when we look at this at a screen that we want to sort of rebuild or anything like that, we want to avoid coding right away, just sort of analyze the design itself, makes sense. How can we split this UI into multiple reusable parts? From what we've covered so far, I mean, there's a couple of things that we could start thinking about. For example, you have this sort of like image with the title, right? That could be some sort of composable function or a component in general that we could reuse, because we see it sort of, not duplicated, but reused here, here, and here. We also have this one right here with a collection. So it's going to have an image on the left, title on the right, but it's on like a card, not even a card. It could be just like a regular surface, but it looks like its own component as well. So those are two things that I could see more or less that we would definitely be reusing. I'm not sure if you guys can spot anything else, but for the most part, I think those two are definitely like the bigger ones that we would probably reuse. All right, so it's already cloned. Just gonna go ahead and open up Android Studio. And this was the code that we had for the past code lab, but we're not gonna be using this. So I'll go ahead and just open up that new one that we got, which would be under Studio projects, other people. I have so many repos here. All right, so this one right here. Is it this one? Yeah. Basic layouts code lab. And I'll open it up on that window. Seems like it didn't want to open. Let's take a look at it real quick. summon it from here and see if that works. Because I think it might just be that it wants the root directory for everything, even if we're not using the other codelab. So I'll go ahead and open that up. All right, and then just to make sure, yeah, we're going to be using this one right here. So the basic layout codelab. Let me know if you could see the Android Studio screen.
Yeah, I can.
Perfect. All right, so let me try reopening that real quick directly. So I have this one, but I want to see if I can open this one directly in a new window. I should be able to, yeah. All right, so I'll close this one out, and I have the other one open. Oops, there we go. Right here. All right, so right now it's just building the Gradle stuff. So, you know, downloading any components that we might be needing. And yeah, we'll take a look at that in a second. Oops, let me see. All right, so yeah, down here they sort of talk about like the different things that we saw essentially. Yeah, the highest level you have the screen content and the bottom navigation. I didn't mention this, of course, because I didn't think that that would be something that we needed to worry about for reusability, since the bottom navigation should just sit down there for the most part. And the search bar, I mean, I guess it can be reused, but it'll probably be sitting in the home screen for the most part as well. And then down here, we have the stuff that we talked about, which was basically like the section here, align your body, and then favorite collections. So these two. So this one up here looks like just a standard row, essentially. This one looks like a little bit of, I mean, it definitely goes horizontally, but I am not, since I'm not completely familiar with Compose myself, I can't really tell you exactly what it is, but I mean, it looks like a grid, right, in a way, like a horizontal grid or something like that. Or it could just be a row with two different, or a row with with a two, like a column of two elements, I guess. But I'm not familiar. So let's dive into that real quick. And for the most part, yeah, like we talked about, these are the different components that they want to have us reuse. So we have the collection, and then the align your body image / title. So let's go ahead and take a look at what else. So the first element they want us to transform into a composable is a search bar. So they want us to sort of separate this out, make it something reusable, essentially. So let's see if the code is accessible now. All right, it should be. So we can kind of see here, like we have the main activity, and let me know if it's too small. I think that should be. Let me rebuild it. Oh, all right. Yes,
That's good.
let's take a look at this. What was it last time? Was it project structure? I think it was. Gradle settings. They want 17. Okay. So let me try to rebuild that real quick. All right. So in here, they have a couple different things for the most part. Oh, I see. So they have the main activity here, and they want us to literally rebuild everything ourselves here, which is great. I mean, this is, learning by experience, I guess. So that's awesome. All right. While this is building, any questions so far as to what we're supposed to be doing?
No questions from my side.
Gotcha. Yeah.
No question.
And, feel free to interrupt me at any point if I get, out of hand.
There's a few things that I noticed with the beginning that I thought was very useful.
Mhm.
and it kind of saves you a lot of time when you're going through all of the sections.
This where?
Like because the thing is that not only do we have uh, certain composables that repeat themselves, but there are certain sections that also repeat itself. So that really helped me because I saw, for example, Align Your Body
Right.
and Favorite Collections. Uh, that those two sections are essentially repeated.
Right. Because
So
it's like that row. You have a title and a row essentially of whatever.
exactly.
Right.
So then now that becomes a reusable composable that you can apply anything to. So it's like
Mm.
everything in there is basically
See, I
reusable.
didn't think about that. That's a great point. It's a great point. I like that. Yeah, I did not even think about that. So thanks for saving me some time there for sure. And then they do have some resources here for us to use. I guess this is going to be the data that we pass for the to the list for our different sections. What else do they have? Drawable string pair. So that's going to be, I'm assuming, like the image and title combo. And then we have the different preview composables down here, which as of right now, obviously they're empty. There's not much to see because we don't have much added, essentially. Like we have to create that stuff now. So, all right, let's take a look at what we need to do. So they want us to start out with a search bar. And basically they want us to recreate this. So an icon, a hint that says search, and then I'm assuming just a field where we can go ahead and type in text, right? And yeah, that's literally called the text field. So, oh wait, is that the code on there? I wonder, like, how much they want us to do ourselves is really the question, right? So,
Yeah, they want you to actually do it before you look at the code, I think.
yeah, I literally saw this. I'm like, is it?
or attempt or think or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we'll try to go that route then. Even though I just saw the text field thing. But for the most part, yeah, that makes sense. And there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't remember, to be honest, like specifics. But we'll take a look. So this search bar, yeah, it's a text field essentially, right? And well, let's take a look. When we say text field, right? Let's see what parameters sort of show up for us to be able to apply or use or whatever it is. Obviously, like this is the same for a lot of, from what I've seen anyway, for a lot of different composables. There's a lot of things that are very similar. But for the most part, like value, right? The value itself. We have the modifier, of course. I think there's also, well, I'm not entirely sure on this one. So let me take a look here. So we have on value and on value change, which makes sense. But when it comes to, when it comes to, what is it? Like the hint itself. I'm curious to see which one would apply as the hint, essentially, in this particular case. Because we have here like label, which maybe, but I'm not sure. Placeholder could also be, right? We have the leading icon, which we'll be using, which is that search. And I think that's it. So I think that the hint should be one of these. So we'll go ahead and try it. I'm assuming it's going to be probably like placeholder, maybe. That makes sense, but we'll take a look.
You could feel free to use the code. I'm not saying for you not to.
No, I know. No, but I'm thinking myself, like, and I'm thinking out loud, of course, because I want to try it. I want to try to see what sort of shows up, and then for the most part, like, I know that this, for example, like the on value change, this is similar to what we've done in the past, which is, yeah, a unit. So essentially, like, what sort of text value are we going to pass it when we, I guess, when we modify or change it or update it or whatever it is. So for the most part, this text field. So yeah, I'll take a look at that code real quick. So they start out with something empty, of course, makes sense because we don't really have much there. And then it says for the on value change, they have the empty unit essentially, and then the modifier. Cool. The only thing is that obviously this is not really what we want, and they mentioned it here actually. It doesn't really do anything, right? Like the on value change, obviously it's an empty unit. We have to sort of, I think we're gonna have to do some sort of like maybe state hoisting, right? Kind of like what we talked about in the past, which is basically as things get modified, sort of shoot that modification of the chain so that we are aware of that change and we retain the state of that change essentially. So for the most part, this is, I guess, a little bit of a starter code for us, which makes sense. But let's go ahead and just see what else they have here, some points. So the search bar composable function accepts a modifier. That's fine. Most of the stuff that we work with or have worked with so far has the modifier, mainly because we want to have that ability to obviously change the way that things look individually. I guess they just want us to have some sort of preview, essentially. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow along in that sense. Modifier. And then the preview should show up here on the top right. But what we will want to do essentially, or eventually, I guess, is as the user types in, right, we want to make sure that and I'm not sure how the app sort of reacts at the end. I don't think I saw a GIF or anything like that, but for the most part, you know, we could have the ability to sort of check against our current list to see as we type if anything matches, right? Instead of having to wait until a full word is out or anything like that. And we do have to retain that, of course, that information. So we're definitely going to have some sort of, you know, rememberable state, I'm pretty sure, for the most part. So we'll take a look. Now let me take a look at this. So this is the main sort of composable, my Sooth app, and then this one's gonna essentially kick things off for us, right? For now, I think let's take a look at this. So this one's gonna have the search bar with a modifier of some padding essentially, and it should be here, but our preview is not showing anything, and I'm wondering if there's anything that we might have missed. So let me take a look at this. And for the most part, like we have the same code so far. Let me take a look at the preview down here. Make sure. So this one's using the theme that we have, calling the search bar that we updated right now with some padding all around. And that's pretty much it. So should be good. Maybe if I type in a value changes, let's take a look. Doubt it. All right, yeah. Or maybe it's needs to be run, isolate. Let's take a look at that. If not, I'll just move on and assume that it'll show up eventually. We could also, I guess, run it maybe, but following that. So let's wait for that Gradle to build. All right. I'll take a look at this real quick. And yeah, this is talking about the modifier. So I don't want to go down there. I saw some code. I don't want to do it. But what do they want us to do? So let me go back to the app real quick. Oh, okay. So, I mean, it shows up, I guess. But it's kind of not really taking up the entire space. So we might want to just push that composable so that it fills the width completely. And I think we can probably, and that might actually update the actual preview itself if we do that. So I'm pretty sure we could update it here. Doesn't this chain? I think it does, right? All right, cool. So let's go ahead and see if the preview gets updated or if it shows. And if it does, then cool. If it doesn't, like it did, then not cool, but that's all right. So let's take a look at what else they want us to do. Oh, it should be at least 56 dp high. I totally missed that actually. All right, so they want a height of 56 dp. So it's definitely a modifier that we have to make sure that we retain. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. For the most part, let's see. Do they want that to be sort of like static? Let's take a look. The design shown with an 8. Okay. So, yeah, so they're talking about the padding here, and then that's they definitely want some spacing between the elements. That's fine, but for the most part, it seems like this is something that's gonna remain sort of static. Yeah. So it should have the full width, and it should be 56 dp all throughout. Cool. So, I mean, and if you have another idea, let me know. But it sounds to me like they want us to have that within the actual composable, so that's pretty much the size or the height at least for any time that we reference it, unless I guess something else gets passed. But feel free to let me know what you think.
Yeah, it's meant for the text
Like
field
this right
itself.
here.
Yeah, for the text field.
Yeah. All right, cool. So for the most part, here, for example, we're passing the modifier that we pass or whenever we essentially reference SearchBar. But in here, and I think we can use those same modifiers and sort of like update it here, essentially. Kind of like how we've changed it in the past. Is that the idea? You think?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whatever you put in the parameter and the preview,
right,
that gets passed here, and then you can add on to it. Basically, you're just adding on whatever you put in the preview. So.
Cool. That makes sense.
So if you already have fill max width in the preview, you won't need to put it here.
Yeah. Well, I know what you mean. But for the most part, I wanted to do this specifically here because, I mean, unless it's completely wrong, and that's okay. But my thought process was that if we put it in here, like that would be essentially that would sort of solidify that it's always 56 dp height. It's always fill max for the parent.
Yeah, I agree. Basically, the only thing I think they want you to allow like flexibility for other like your users to pass is like padding. Like if your user wants padding, but other stuff like that is like concrete. Like
right. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, it sounds like wait, did I do this wrong? Am I supposed to specify it here like this? Oh, it's always in DP, or
Yeah, it's DP. And you don't
right.
need the height most part.
Oh, you're right.
And it's actually it's supposed to be size.
The actual size. What do you mean?
Yeah, instead of height, it's
Right.
supposed to be dot size.
Dot size. So this one here is specifying like the actual size of the composable itself, but you're talking about like the setting the min or max height here? Like, is that what you're referring to? Or just passing on the height itself?
There is a modifier.
Right.
Yeah, size. You could just that's what is used for the text. This text field. That's what I'm seeing that was used for the text.
Wait, but why? Okay. I mean that's fine. Like that makes sense. But I wonder why you can't use I guess the height directly there.
Let's try. Let's try the height.
Yeah, and it takes DP. So I mean, type in this one. I thought that's what we did last. Okay. I'm like, I don't know why it's not working. All right, cool. So that's what that looks like. And then as far as the preview itself should be essentially mimicking that, right? So this should be passing the padding, but also using whatever we have in here, if I'm not mistaken. But this preview doesn't want to show up at all, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. But for now, that's fine. So we have the height, we have the fill max width. Oh, and this is how they did it, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I see what I did.
What's the difference? So let's see. So for height, you can use height in. This makes sure the composable has a specific minimum height. It can, however, become larger when, for example, the user. That makes a lot of sense. Because if I just use height, I think it's just going to stay like that. And if the screen size is bigger, then you'll have that 56 dp height regardless. So that makes sense when it comes to like scaling up. That would be the minimum. And actually what you mentioned was great too, the size, because I believe you can specify the min height size in as well. So I think either one of these would work, but I think this one's more specific to like the height itself. All right, so that makes sense. What else? All right, so let's take a look. Yeah, for the width, I mean, we use fill max width mainly because for search bars, I mean, you usually don't want to have any remaining space or anything like that. So for the most part, you want it to take up the whole horizontal width. And all right, cool. So now we're on the same page. They want us to also add that sort of hint, because right now it would technically, if I had some sort of view, it would technically be blank. But for the most part, they do want us to add some sort of hint. So yeah, taking a look at this, we have access to, label and placeholder. I think those were the ones that at least to me, stuck out the most for a possible hint. And then obviously the leading icon as well. I think they included the icon. I'm not sure. If not, we could probably reference some material icon, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, let's start with the icon, and then we'll go from there. So we have the modifier. We have leading icon. And for that one, it's going to be what is it called? I don't even know how to reference the material icon stuff. Is it in here? Let me take a look. Or maybe, no, I don't think it's in here either. Or type, no. Typography. Okay, so let me take a look at the interwebs real quick. Compose material icon. Material icons. So you just reference icon and then whatever drawable. But I'm pretty sure there was some sort of icon library. Yeah, kind of like this, actually. So icons, rounded, shopping cart, and then it'll show something like that. That's what we did last time, at least, from what I saw. So icons, dot, etc. Let's go from there. All right, so this will take an icon, I'm assuming, kind of like how we saw right now. And then what else? That's it, right? So let's do this. And we have, I don't know if it's filled or not, but it looks like it's just an outline, but I'm not sure if the default will give us what we want there. And I wonder if there it is. I wonder what it would be called. That seems to probably be the one, but they want it to be, what is it, like a unit? I guess. I'm not sure if it'll preview, but we can probably just run it and take a look. Yeah, let's do that and take a look at what it looks like now. For the most part, I expect there to be no text. Fill max width, 5060p height, and at least an icon, hopefully. Let's see. So I don't see any icon. And I think that it might be something that I wrote that might be incorrect. But let's take a look at this real quick. Yeah. So leading icon matches that, which is what we wanted. And then they want the background color to match the material theme surface color, essentially. Text field colors. So this is if we wanted to override the actual text field itself, but they want the background color itself to be that surface color. So let me see if I can add that real quick. And I wonder if that's something that they want us to, I guess, make a part of the component, or if something that we update as we go. I'm going to add it to the component itself directly, just because it just makes a little bit more sense. I think either way, whatever we modify or whatever we pass on the modifier might update that for the most part. But yeah, we'll take a look. So for this text field, the actual background, I think, and Bismarck, let me know if I'm wrong on this one, but I think we could probably use surface and then just update like the actual color of it, or maybe the text field itself might have a color change. Let's take a look at that. Colors, that's what it is. Okay. But that's the actual text field. I'm not sure if that matches the background.
So what I got from it is that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, what I got from it is that text field itself has its own defaults. So whenever you want to change it, then you change whichever of the defaults you want to show differently. So the idea is that because we're placing these letters on this background,
Right.
you want the background to be a surface because
Right.
the surface background, um, it'll show the text itself versus having the default.
Right.
If
Yeah, that makes
makes-
sense. I mean, so basically what you're saying is like it doesn't matter what we sort of alter the actual surface to be the color, the actual text field color itself should update dynamically, but also we could overwrite it if we need to, right?
Oh, say that again.
So like you said that this was defaulted, but also like you mentioned that it doesn't matter the color that we provide the background, right? Because the actual text field color itself, like the color of the are you referring to the color of the actual text within the text field?
Yeah. So
Mm.
to differentiate between the color of the text and the background it's on,
Mm-hmm.
you have to set the correct background.
Right.
And then the correct background is surface.
Okay.
Then that means that you have to go back and change the default for a text field because they don't have it as surface. If you click on the library for text field, well, actually not text field default. If you click on the
Oh,
library
like
for it, it'll show you what the default is for.
oh, so it's already so there's a couple of things that are already defaulted, yeah. And then for the actual color itself, wait, oops, I had to type. This is the opacity for the background color. Let's see if I can. Textual colors, and the default is right. So it says material theme colors on surface, right? So like this specific, whatever we have for the color for on surface, essentially, whatever surface we're using. And then they're passing whatever the opacity is essentially as an alpha.
Yeah. So if you go back to the text field
mm-hmm.
in your code.
Oh, in my actual code, yeah.
Yeah. So if you start typing, because one of the parameters for text field is colors.
Right.
So if you type colors and then text field default.
Right.
Okay. And then when you do dot, it gives you the option for text colors. I think it is text colors or text. Start typing text. It should be
Sorry.
dot text.
Step shape, decoration box.
Text field. Well, actually, no, it's not capital T. It's lowercase t.
Oh, like
lower.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Colors, yeah. So if you control click on that one on text field colors, you'll see that background color. If you go all the way to it'll have the default as on surface.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing is that since this text field is going to be used as input for like text fonts,
right,
we're changing this background color because if you change it to surface, if you control and click on surface, it tells you what it's used for.
Right. So let's take a look
But
at this.
if you go back on your regular code,
mm-hmm.
and then you instead of text field, if you set the background, you put background is equal to
instead of text field here, like
inside of the parameters for text field colors.
Oh, gotcha. So background.
So you don't have to highlight. You can just go to text field colors, and inside of the parameter for text field color in your code.
Oh, you want to actually like within here? Okay.
Yeah, in here, yeah. Just put background color is equal to material, theme, colors, dot surface. And then on a control click on surface. That's how I understood why they made us do it this way, because it explains to you uh, what surface is made for. So for here, I actually have it on my
Oh, you
side.
do?
It says on surface color used for text and icons displayed on top of the surface color. But
Makes sense.
surface itself, the surface color is used on surfaces of components such as cards, sheets, and menus. So it's kind of like they're basically telling you, hey, you need to change this default because this is what this text field is going to be used for. That makes
Gotcha.
sense.
I mean, that definitely makes sense, especially like if you're when it comes to the context of like dark mode and light mode. That makes sense, because if it's sort of like dynamic in the sense that on surface depends on the surface that's being displayed essentially. It sounds like it sort of updates on its own, or it makes that change on its own. If you were to toggle, between dark and light mode, I think. But for the most part, that makes sense. So this is fine, but the only part that's confusing is I would have thought that they wanted, so obviously we have the text field, etc. But I thought they would have wanted the background color to be updated for like a surface outside of the text field for some reason. And I'm not sure if like that's just another way to do it, but this is fine. Like it makes sense to go this route, but I'm not sure. Like I wouldn't know. Yeah.
So you were thinking of putting the typing in the surface composable and then putting the text field inside of it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's just something that came up, but I mean, for the most part, like this is more straightforward. Obviously, like it relates directly to the text field itself. I just wasn't sure what, if any, there were best practices that were being mentioned, or maybe they're just trying to show us, like, how to do this within it. Yeah, I'm not sure, but for the most part, thanks for explaining that. That's definitely useful. So let's take a yeah.
Yeah, because I kind of misunderstood what you were saying, because now that you said it, yes, the surface, putting the text field inside of the surface versus not having it inside of the surface is what you were
right.
So it's like that's like kind of completely different than what I was saying, because that one,
right.
That surface is more so like the surface that you find inside the text field.
Right, and that's fine. That's fine. For the most part, like that makes a lot of sense. So let's take a look at this real quick. And we probably won't be able to dive into much more. I'm just going to take a look at this code just to see what they do, right? Oh, number one, this is where I messed up, right? So like I put icons directly this right here, but I didn't reference icon, the actual composable function. So that's one thing to change. So they definitely want that. All right, let's put that there. Icon. And the icon takes, let me see what parameters it takes. Import it first. Should be this one, yeah. And then it takes what? Image bitmap and a string or painter resource or an image vector. I don't even know what they use there, but I think if we actually reference this, it should tell us what it is. An image vector. Okay. So let's. Oh, I lost the import. Bring that in. Image vector. And what else? String, right? String. I think that's what it takes. Or no, modifier, sorry. Is it? Let me take a look at this. Image vector. So this is the content description string. So that's basically for the accessibility side of things. It definitely takes, I think the image vector should be good because everything else seems to be defaulted. So we'll go with image vector and just add the content description for that. So it'll be content description. And then this would be, well, now that I think about it, I guess this icon doesn't really matter if it has this description, mainly because the whole text field should have some sort of content descriptor that would say like, oh, search or whatever, not the individual icon itself. So maybe let me avoid this for now. And then for the image vector, we're going to go ahead and use what we had before, which was the icons that outline that whenever it loads, search. There it is. See what else. So they do want some sort of string, but let me take a look at this. They want it to be no. Okay.
No, yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense because this one wasn't defaulted. This one was just set to a nullable. Cool. All right. So that's fine. And then the other thing that they sort of went over was the placeholder. So the placeholder is the hint that we were talking about. And then I think this is what we had referenced. Yeah. All right, cool. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and as far as the actual placeholder itself, they just wanted to say search. So I'll go ahead and add that. I don't think they added that as a string. Let me take a look at the resources we have, but they might have, yeah. Oh, they did. Okay, cool. All right, so what is it? Placeholder text or placeholder. All right, and then in here we would have the string resource, which would be part of string that's placeholder search. Cool. So let me go ahead and rerun that real quick. And let me take a look at this this preview. So for the most part, that's fine, but the actual, I guess the actual color is kind of throwing me off because it seems to, yeah, it seems to match everything else, and also like I'm not seeing the search. Yeah,
it's supposed to be the text composable. So you're not putting
within the
it
placeholder.
directly. Yeah, it's not directly.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Because I just reference the resource essentially by doing that. Is that what it takes?
But the thing is that remember that you have to use a string resource,
right?
In order to access this. In order to have access to this, so you would say string resource, and then inside of the string resource accepts this value r dot string.
You're saying string resource, like the.
So
like
the r dot no, that was right. That was
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
The r dot
string
dot placeholder string resource actually handles that. So if you put string resource, it has a parameter that accepts r dot string.
Gotcha. It's kind of like the painter resource that we saw for images and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, so you just copy the r dot string and put it in there.
Yeah, just drop it in here. Cool.
And you
a lot
don't.
of sense.
You could use the ID, or you can also just put search.
And here?
Yeah, you could, but it's just optional stuff.
No way. Wait, you mean like just placeholder search? Is that what you're saying? like instead of doing string resource or putting ID, I guess.
Because the value is search. But yeah, that's fine.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Sorry, I got misunderstood. Yeah, I understand what you mean. So basically, you're saying like, yeah, you could add in just the string itself or whatever. Or I guess not in this case, but you could technically add the string itself here. You could put search in that area, but obviously we're using the string resource mainly because, well, I mean that's best practice all throughout, especially when it comes to like translations and stuff like that. Let's take a look at this now. We should be able to see the text, hopefully. Yeah. Okay, so cool. Now the only thing is the color, right? Is that what we expected? So this is just a regular surface color, and that's part of the material theme. Unless we, yeah, I don't think we have to reference our own stuff either. That should be the one, right? So for the most part, that should be it. Let me take a look at this. Yeah, it's the same thing that they reference here. I mean, it definitely does not look like whatever they have going on, but let's see. Yeah, that's what we talked about regarding the accessibility stuff. Text field defaults. That's what we were using for the color. Right, minimum height instead of fixed height. When we talked about scaling or different device sizes. I wonder if the order that we do this in has anything to do with it. I don't think so, but for the most part, like, the only thing that threw me off was sort of like that color, because it definitely doesn't look like this. But maybe it's because I'm not really using, or I'm missing something. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Which part? Can I see it? Let me see.
Yeah, right here.
Oh,
you see the search field? It looks kind of weird.
Different, yeah.
And I'm thinking that it has something to do with this, maybe, like, because this doesn't have a surface.
Did you put a padding?
It should have the padding, yeah. Because, oh, actually, no. You make a great point. Yeah, because we haven't even touched this actually. So technically, if we were to call it here and, you know, reference a padding or whatever, it should do it. But we haven't touched this yet. The composable function that gets called from onCreate. So I think for what we have, that makes sense. But the preview itself is what we're supposed to be referencing against.
Yeah, and your preview is not working, right?
Oh, actually, wait, it might be. Oh, it's, look how small it is. No wonder it was working. It's just tiny. I can't see it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
There you go. Yeah.
A 4K monitor on the left here, so unfortunately, I didn't even notice. But that makes sense. Cool. So I mean, it looks like the same thing, and I think we could probably test it if we wanted to. I think up here or here with interactive mode, but that's a lot easier, and I discovered it at the very end. That's unfortunate. All right, cool. So yeah, that's pretty much, I guess, all for now. That was, at least for me, like I definitely, there's a couple things that I forgot about for sure. Like I had to look up icons and stuff like that, because for the most part, like on a day-to-day, you know, I don't use Compose, and you know, I think I should be on my own just practicing a little bit too, just to really, you know, make it concrete. But anyway, that's pretty much all I had. Did you have any other callouts, Bismarck? Anything that I might have missed, or anything that you might have done ahead of time that might be interesting? We're not gonna dive into this one yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the next
right, we can take a look. Right.
we can have a look at those things, because the other stuff is like with the other sections that
Right. Right. Yeah. For
I
the
had,
most
I
part.
had some questions about some things, but it's like further on.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I mean, whatever questions you have as we reach them, I'm not the only one, that is here for the most part. And if I know we have like a lot of people that are really familiar with Compose in the group, Pedro, Pablo, etc. So if you have any questions, like I could always ping them, or you could do that as well. But feel free to ask as we reach the sections or whatever it is, or maybe even now, and we can have an answer for next time. But was it like anything that we're gonna see yet, or wait later down?
So I was wondering, how do you set the background color for an activity? Because for the most part, we've been using, for example, if you have a surface, right, you can set
Right.
padding to a surface, and it's being padded from the activity that it spawned from. But there's no access to because if you look inside of the code, all of the background settings
Yeah, let me take a look.
is in the preview. They're all in the previews.
Right.
So then, how do I officially add a background color to the activity itself?
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean, and definitely like not something that has been referenced yet. At least as far as the codelabs go. I could definitely Google it, but for the most part, I think for that one, I'll reach out to them and see what they say. Because honestly, like a lot of times, and people have different ways of doing things, but those that work with this directly, like professionally, they'll definitely have way more experience as far as like what we should be doing essentially. So yeah, I'll reach out to them and I'll have an answer for you.
And the second thing is that if you look at the code for where they're trying to make the composable reusable, so they'll add
like down here
parameters.
Are you referring to like this one specific?
Go all the way down.
Yeah, I'll probably forget about that.
Don't worry. The very last code. Yeah, if you look, you see it says for the parameter values of align your body element, it says add drawable res drawable, right? It makes sense to me up until the part where they're stating that we're using an int value. So basically, I'm confused as to why is it that why is the type int?
Yeah, so for resources period, whether it's string, anything that goes in like the r dot whatever folder, that's just the type that it gives it. The question that you asked is like a great question, but why? Why is it a type int? I know it always is, but why is a great question. And for the most part, like, I mean, I think in general, like, and I might be mistaken, I'll look it up right now as well, just to make sure that I don't BS it. But I think the idea behind it is that it's something that is not referenced, but sort of like compiled at runtime. So it's something that's that as we build the app itself, like when we're going to run it, etc., it's something that can be referenced right away, I think. But I'll look it up just to make sure. And let's see what the verdict is.
When I looked at the definition, it does not help that much.
It doesn't help.
It's like a developer explanation.
From
which the developer understands what he or she is saying, but they don't make it such that other people understand what it is.
That happens all the time. No, I know what you mean. And I think I've looked this up before because it's such an interesting thing to see, like when you're reading this, the code. Especially when you're dealing with like type conversions and stuff like that. It definitely gets interesting then. But for the most part, Yeah, all they say is like it's an int lookup value for retrieving whatever the data is. So that doesn't, like I would definitely know what you're talking about when you say that it doesn't make much sense outside of the developer. But yeah, let me take a look at. Maybe we could ask ChatGPT. Maybe that'll be useful.
It's gonna give you a 2013 answer.
Oh, actually, see, I'll ask Bard then. Let's take a look. So, and I'll pull up my screen here so you can see it too.
You can do control click on add drawable if you type it in your
and it'll give you that response that you saw.
yeah, the one that doesn't make that much sense. Yeah.
I just drop it in here. Like this is what they did anyway, right? Drawable res drawable. Type int equals 0. All right. Well,
If you open up the explanation,
yeah.
make
So
it bigger.
What was that?
And green, I think they explain it.
Yeah, there should be like the stuff here, but the notes that an integer parameter, field, or method return value is expected to be a drawable resource reference.
Does that make sense to you?
Return value. Ish. Like I want to be honest. I mean, ish. And the reason I say that is because, for the most part, it almost sounds like they're saying that they use an integer to basically tell you whether you have something that's valid or not when you type in like r dot whatever. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me anyway. And then I start thinking about like, 0 and 1, 0 being, in binary, like being something like, not binary, but 0 being false, 1 being true, etc. But I don't think that's why they would sort of do that or go that route with the explanation. Let me take a look. So all right, so the way that they explain it here is that in Android, a drawable resource is represented by an integer, aka the ID of the resource, right? So it's the ID of the actual resource itself, which refers to the actual drawable object stored in the resources of your app. And the reason that they use an integer in the first place is for performance and memory optimization. So it kind of sounds like, yeah.
Can you paste this one, the link that you have there?
Yeah,
that's actually a good explanation.
Yeah, it's a chat.openai.chatgpt.
Really? Do you use ChatGPT for this?
Yes, of course. Why wouldn't I? For explanation, that's pretty good.
That's not a bad explanation. Actually, that's
I'll copy the explanation here though, for sure. You'll see it in the chat real quick. So that's what they gave me. And when I asked it for a little bit more information, this is what it told me as far as like how it works, which is great knowledge actually. And yeah, that's pretty much what it said. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is good actually. I understand this.
And I'll go ahead and actually put it here on the video so that people can see it too. So this is what it looks like, right? All together. And then, yeah, it basically talks about down here, which is the interesting part. It basically talks about when you build the Android app, the resource compiler assigns a unique integer ID, right? So like to reference the resource specifically as defined by the project, which is kind of like what we talked about earlier, that I assumed that it sort of like did that at runtime to make it like runtime compilable so that it could be referenced immediately. So for the most part, it generates that ID. It's stored in the resource class, essentially. And then whenever you reference the ID, obviously it knows exactly what you're talking about. And then these are, I guess, the benefits. But yeah, pretty cool. Something new to learn for sure.
Nice, nice.
And I guess we'll end it on that note. Yeah, thanks for joining as always. If you at any point miss a session, don't worry about it. These recordings are gonna go on YouTube whether I embarrass myself or not. So feel free to take a look later. And I'll end the recording now.